How's it going, Guardians? Shifty here, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a solo run of the Grandmaster Devils LAIR Nightfall on a Warlock, and I'm going to be including commentary to give you some tips along the way. Now this is a little bit of a longer run, so I'm going to keep this intro brief. With that said, before I get into my loadout, if you end up enjoying the video, make sure to hit that like button, and if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Alright, so for my Warlock subclass, I went with top tree Voidwalker, and I'm also using the Vortex Grenade, and I'm pairing that with the Contraverse Hold exotic gauntlets. Then for my weapons, I have the Seventh Seraph Carbine with auto-loading holster and Vorpal weapon, and this is going to be for barrier champions. Then for my energy weapon, I have the Ticuu's Divination exotic bow. This is going to be for ad clear, for taking enemies out at a distance, and for taking out overload champions. Then in my heavy slot, I have the Tarantula arc linear fusion rifle. And finally, for my armor mods, I'll quickly show you each piece of armor, and if you need to see anything in more detail, just pause the video. Also, I am using a mixture of Charged with Light and Elemental Well mods. Alright, and that is all there is to my setup in this one. Now, let's jump right into the run. Alright, so right at the beginning of this, there's two things you can do. You can either Sparrow to the end of this area, or you can hug the right hand side like I'm doing, and this is relatively safe. If you don't Sparrow just right, you can end up being shot by enemies, and your Sparrow is going to explode pretty easily, and that's going to end up killing you. That's why I prefer to choose the safer way and go off to the right. There will be an overload champion at the end of this area either way that you're going to want to take out. So generally when I get to the end of the area, I like to fight all of the enemies from this right hand side. It gives me a little bit of high ground here. I also try to clear most of the area out before I start fighting the overload champion. So you do have to be careful with this overload champion to avoid its arc shots. Use my bow to prevent the healing while my grenade chips away. Now that the champion is gone, we can move on to the next area. This particular Grandmaster does take a little while to solo. However, it is one of the most consistent ones to solo in my opinion. The strategy that you can use to complete it is relatively reliable. So of course in this area you want to clear the enemies out. Eventually this barrier champion does push your position a little bit. I try to use some form of cover to prevent its boomer shot from hitting me. Looks like I was able to take that champion out in one stun, but that may not always be the case, so always be careful and watch out for that boomer shot. In this room there's going to be an overload champion as well as a solar shielded wizard. I wasn't expecting this wizard to push up on me like that, so I'm going to have to probably forget about that champion for now. Just focus on the wizard. Got the wizard and the vandal down there. Now I can focus on this champion again. Looks like the explosion from Ticuu's Divination bumped it off, but it should be back in time, just like that. On the next stun, I'm going to try to use a grenade here. Might as well throw it where it's going to jump up to again, and then go for the stun. Now I want to make sure the rest of the area here is cleared out. Once you push up to this little staircase, some thralls spawn out of this area over here. That's why I immediately turned to that area so I could just take him out with a grenade real quick. There's going to be 2 acolytes and a barrier champion in the distance here. See if I can get those taken care of. Looks like I got the 2 acolytes, but I think the barrier champion is going to push to the middle of the room. So I may have to deal with it later. Either way, I'm going to toss a grenade right here in the middle of the room. Do damage to several enemies at once. I'm going to try to fight from this location. It gives me a little bit of cover from the left there. And I should be able to take out several of the hive enemies before fighting the fallen enemies. Wait for the stun here. And there it is. Finish this champion, and then I'm going to go for that wizard again. Alright, the wizard is down now. You do have to be careful here because shots can go through that broken pillar right to the left. You can see at this spot I'm kind of peeking over the edge to fire on these enemies. I know there's a couple snipers way in the back there. I'm going to try to get those. One of them's down. And the other one peeked out here. Alright, both snipers are down. Now I'm going to try to focus on this champion here. And all I'm going to do is peek shoot with my bow. It's generally a pretty good strategy, and Ticuu's Divination does solid damage for being a primary weapon. Looks like the explosion from Ticuu's is helping me clear out some of the ads around the Overload champion. I think there's one more to drag over there. Alright, now this area is cleared out. I'm going to make sure I'm maxed out on heavy, and then I'm going to start the ghost scan here. I'm going to pretty much do all my fighting from up in this area. I'm going to be using the shipping container in front of me for cover for the most part. I'm going to wait for some enemies over there, and then I'm going to turn to my right because 2 dregs will spawn right here. You always want to be careful for those 2 dregs that spawn here right away. There's not many enemies that will come up on here, but you always have to be careful. A little bit later, there may be a captain who can jump up here, and there's going to be some invisible marauders as well. Either way, at this point, I'd like to try to just barely peek over the shipping container and fire off shots at all of the enemies in the area. Be careful for any snipers in the distance. Eventually, after you've cleared most of that first wave out, you are going to have some shanks that spawn. You shouldn't have too much of a problem with these shanks here. An exploder shank trying to sneak up on me right here. And it looks like all I have left is this resilient captain to the right and an overload champion to the left. The resilient captain likes to hide quite a bit. So what I'm going to try to do here is stun the overload if I need to. And then hop over here and try to go for this resilient captain to the right. See if I can push it out with a grenade. There we go. And now I need to take out the overload captain. Looks like I do have a sniper off to my right yet. It always tends to happen. There always is one vandal who likes to hide until you decide to go for the overload champion. But I've already committed to the champion right now. We'll wait until it's a problem. There. Wasn't too bad, except I almost died. It was a pretty risky move on my part to leave that vandal over there like that. So you can always forget about the champion and go straight for that vandal. Alright, so we are moving on to the second phase of defending the ghost. So I'm going to head back up to my safe spot. It's not really a fully safe spot, but it's a lot safer than being down on the ground. I tried to use my grenade and Ticus to pick off some enemies immediately. This wave of enemies is going to include both Hive and Thrall. So for the most part, I try to use my grenade to take out enemies that are right beneath me, and then I use Ticuu's Divination to go for the enemies in the distance, specifically the snipers in the distance. I won't die to one sniper shot because of my resistance mods, but I still have to be careful. Also, this section has wizards, and I want to try to take out several of those. So here's one of the captains that will jump up here that I was talking about earlier. This is actually a pretty rare occurrence. Most other times that I've played this, I haven't had that captain jump up here, but just be aware that it can happen like that. Much like the last wave, I just try to sit up here and take out enemies as I can, whether they be down low and I take them out with my grenade, or they're in the distance and I use my bow or my linear fusion rifle. I do want to mention that while I'm running this solo, I think that my strategies would work well in a team setting as well. So we do have a barrier champion here. You always have to be on the lookout for champions. So I am going to try to go for this champion. I did see some snipers spawning, which is why I kind of backed away. I should probably deal with these before I decide to go for that champion again. So that's what I'm going to do here. Alright, so I'm going to duck down and try to shoot through this grate here. It doesn't always work out perfectly, but I'm going to try it out anyway. This is a great opportunity for me to spam my grenade. And in this case, here's some of those invisible marauders I was talking about. That almost turned out poorly because I wasn't prepared for them. Alright, so the barrier champion is down, but now we have an overload captain to deal with. And here are some more invisible marauders. I'll use my grenade on these ones. Now I'm going to try to go for this champion. We'll see how well it works with this railing here. Probably benefit me if I took out these snipers first. Clear out some more enemies with my grenade. There we go, there's a stun. Like I said, I'm trying to shoot through this railing here. Doesn't always work. As long as I hit it with my bow occasionally, I should prevent it from healing. Alright, that overload champion is down now. I see a couple more snipers in the distance there. Toss a grenade to clear out some enemies that are closer. As you can obviously tell, there is an overload champion down to my left. There are a few other enemies over there as well, but I think I cleared most of them out with my Ticuu's Divination explosions. I see one other enemy over there yet. You also have to be careful for invisible marauders that wait until you come down like this one. Now I think I'm clear to go for this champion. In hindsight, I probably could have used heavy on this overload champion because I have plenty of it lying around on the ground. Either way, in this next room we are going to have several more enemies, including another overload champion. I'm going to try to clear out most of the regular enemies first. A couple of vandals right in front of me. One drag, and I think all that's left is the overload champion. So I'm of course going to peek shoot from behind these crates here. Now we're to the outside area, and I like to focus on the snipers right up top here right away. Got one of them down, but then the second one got shielded by the servitor. Now wait till it's unshielded because the servitor does move. Alright, both of those snipers are down. So this part is a little bit tricky. You have a barrier champion that's shielding a bunch of enemies, and those enemies are spamming shots at you. That in turn makes it hard to take out said barrier champion. So that wasn't ideal. Kind of just have to wait for my opportunity here. As you can see just a little bit ago, I did use my super, but it didn't work out how I wanted it to. I was hoping to try and take out some of the shielded enemies with it. Unfortunately, it decided to target the barrier champion. I finally got an angle here on this barrier champion. I do have to be careful because enemies do have a vantage point on me. I'm gonna wait for the barrier again. That was a close one. I'm gonna back away here, try to heal before the next barrier. And I'm going to try to screen the shots from the Vandal as I break the barrier again. Alright, that worked out pretty well. Could have went a little bit better, but we got the job done. Now I just have to finish off the remaining enemies here. Also, you want to be aware of the snipers way over in the distance here. They can shoot you if you head out of this doorway. If you stay in the doorway, they can't quite shoot you. From here, you should be free to take them out with your bow. It may take a little bit of time because they do end up hiding every once in a while. As always with Grandmasters, sometimes it does require a little bit of patience. As you can see, I'm fighting a sniper off to my left as well, and the sniper off to my right decided it wanted to come out from hiding at that point in time. It did get one shot off on me, but it didn't quite kill me, as you could see. Just want to double check and make sure I'm not seeing any more snipers over there. And then I'm going to push off to my left. At this part, you don't want to push too far forward, otherwise you will spawn the Brigs. And we don't want to spawn the Brigs until we've cleared out most of this area over here. As you can see, another sniper shot came my way. There's some hiding up over by those shipping containers. So I'm going to kind of try to peek over here and take some of those out. These Vandals like to shoot and hide, so you just kind of have to be patient here again. I guess while they're hiding, I'm going to try to go for some of these enemies in the distance. I like to take out these orange bar Vandals over there. There's not a whole lot to say at this point besides the fact that I'm patiently taking out some of these resilient Vandals. Waiting for some of these other Vandals to pop out. You can also see there's some enemies down to my right here. There is an overload champion. I'm going to go for those after I take out this last Vandal. Try to lure the overload out here. There we go, that was perfect. And now I can peek shoot this overload champion until it's gone. Alright, so I think I'm about ready to spawn the Brigs. Pretty much all of the enemies that I can clear out for now are cleared out. There are a couple right here that I can go for yet. But in pushing up to take those out, I did end up spawning the Brigs anyway. I like to start with this leftmost Brig here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty much spam bow shots. I might try to throw a grenade or two, and I might even throw my super. You want to stay pretty far back here so you don't gain the attention of the fallen walker tank. So this isn't the fastest process of all time, but it does get the job done, and it saves on my heavy ammo, which I will need. I'm primarily trying to save my heavy ammo until the face breaks off of this Brig, and then I'll use a little bit. Certain parts of this area, like the Brigs and the walker tank itself, will get tedious, but there are timestamps if you want to skip to a particular portion. See what my super does there. Fortunately, I think the attacks from the Brig blew up my super. It did a little bit of damage, but it didn't do as much as it could have if it made a direct hit. There it is, and now I'm going to use my linear fusion rifle. And as soon as it's in the air, I'm going to run away a little bit. And I'm going to see if I can get an angle from right here. There we go. One Brig is down. As you can see, the fallen walker tank has locked onto me there. That's why I backed up. Just trying to look and see if there's any enemies that I can take out before moving on to the rightmost Brig. It should be right down over this ledge here. See if I can get a grenade on it. Also, when you come to the right hand side here, always be careful for any leftover vandals from earlier. Sometimes they do end up hiding until you come over for the Brig, just like that actually. That was a terrible grenade throw. Guess I'll have to use Ticus for now. Alright, I should be moving up to the right here, which is good for me. I'll have a better angle on it from there. See if I can get a better grenade throw here. Not too bad. And we're going to wait for the face to break off again. There it is. Swap to my linear fusion. And I backed away once it went in the air a little bit. So after this first shot, I'm going to go for a couple more shots on it. And there we are. That's the second Brig down. So now I'm primarily going to be focusing on the walker tank next. To deal with that, I like to head back over to the left-hand side here. Make sure the area is cleared out for sure. I am going to go ahead and use a few linear fusion rifle shots here. That did a decent chunk of damage, but for the most part I'm going to be using my grenade and throwing it like this. Now this part is going to take me quite a while. If I had more heavy ammo lying around, I would probably use more linear fusion rifle ammo, but I'm trying to save some. So you saw this fallen ship coming in. You want to make sure you back away when those come in because they will shoot at you and do a significant amount of damage. That won't be the last fallen ship that does come in throughout this. As you can see, I decided to throw my super over where all of those enemies spawned. My goal there was to try to take out some of the shielded enemies. So during this part, I probably won't offer much commentary. It's going to be more of the same. I'm going to be throwing my grenade at the walker tank, and I'm going to be popping off my super anytime that it comes up at those enemies in the middle. In addition to that, I am going to be on the lookout for any sort of fallen ships coming in, and I'm going to be looking out for any of those enemies that do come in on those ships, pushing my location. Sometimes I do try to go for other enemies when I'm waiting for my grenade to come back up. With Contraverse Hold, I do frequently get back-to-back grenades on the walker tank, which is kind of nice and helps speed this up a little bit. Like I said, if I had more ammo, this would probably go significantly faster, but unfortunately I have to deal with the scenario I'm given. Looks like I do almost have the walker tank down to 1/3 of its health. Alright, now I'm patiently waiting for my grenade. There's not much I can do at this point. So as I peeked at its health, I noticed it had 1/6 of its health left. Shouldn't be too much longer though. I almost have another super that I can toss there in the middle. And my super is up. I'm going to go ahead and throw a grenade on the walker. Before I go ahead and throw my super in the middle there, I am going to wait for my rift, just in case there's any sort of mishaps. So all I got with that super is one Vandal. But I also noticed a ship coming in, which is why I'm backing away. You can see the fallen ship there. I mean, miss a couple of bow shots here. Not a big deal. Back to fighting the walker tank. Had a drag sneak up there to my right. Actually have a couple dregs out here that are trying to shoot at me. Can be kind of brutal sitting here waiting for a grenade. This would go quite a bit faster if my Contraverse Hold could just give me my grenade back. One more drag off here to the right. Alright, I know I broke another leg. Does look like it only has a little bit of health left. Looks like I broke another leg there, and it has no health left. I finally took the walker out. I'm gonna grab this ammo, and now I like to head off to the right to take out the remainder of the enemies in the area. As you can see, we do have an overload champion down here. There's an overload champion in the back, and we also have a barrier champion that we have yet to deal with. Also getting sniped at here. That was a close one. That worked out pretty well. And you can see there's another ship coming in, so I'm going to go hide in just a moment. This would have went a lot better if I could hit the crits on that captain. See if I can take this captain out now. There we go. One overload down. Try to pick off some of these enemies in the distance. Now I think I'm going to try to go for this barrier champion here. Rift for a little bit of healing. Toss a grenade over there to try to get the champion damaged as well as some of the enemies around it. I wanted to make sure I was prepared for that barrier to go up. Alright, the champion is down. I have 2 linear fusion rifle shots left for this arc shielded captain. And of course it's going to hide immediately. Probably going to have my shield broken here. Surprisingly, I didn't. I actually said there was only 1 overload up here, but there's actually 2 overload champions. I knew that. I don't know why I didn't say it, though. So I'm going to try to take this one to my right out here. In order to take this one out, I have to maintain a little bit of cover from the champion to my left, which is why I'm standing right here. It's not the best spot ever, but it's doing the job well enough. Now I can go for these enemies over here. And after this overload champion is down, then we're going to be free to move on to the boss fight. Alright, I'm going to take a look around the area for some ammo quick. Since I have 0 heavy ammo, it's nice to see all of these heavy bricks lying around. And now we're going to head to the boss fight. So So before you can even fight Sepiks Prime, you do have to take out some Overlord champions as well as a few other enemies. So I'm going to pretty much do all of my fighting from this little room over here. Not many enemies push into here. There are a couple throughout the boss fight, but you just have to be careful with those ones. Alright, one of the champions is down and the other is stunned. I think with that last drag, I also cleared out the rest of the enemies. Once this champion is down, I believe it's time to actually fight the boss. So I'm going to head out here and be ready with my linear fusion rifle. I'm going to pop some shots of this into the boss. And with that, I did a solid amount of damage. I risked it to try to grab some Tarantula ammo, and here's one of the enemies that does push in here. It's an arc shielded captain, and it's going to be on this first wave of enemies during the boss fight. I almost took it out there. During this boss fight, my grenade is going to come in handy again to take out the groups of enemies that spawn and stand next to each other. Likewise, Ticuu's Divination is also going to work pretty well here. One piece of advice I have here is that anytime you know that enemies are spawning or that you see enemies spawning, just back into the room and clear the area out entirely before you move forward with damaging the boss. It's important to clear the area because sometimes a hidden enemy can pop out and do a significant amount of damage to you in a short time. You can see overall I'm pretty patient with this boss fight because I don't want to be taken by surprise by a hidden enemy. The boss can do a significant amount of damage on its own. I don't need Shanks shooting me from the side as well. So at this point I was fairly confident that there weren't any more Shanks. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and fail super, I guess. That super almost killed me. It would have been ideal if I could have hit some of them servitors up there. I did go ahead and use a grenade to try to do some damage to the servitors since I failed with my super so badly. Again, I want to try to clear out any enemies that I can before proceeding. I'll try to save the servitors for last. Looks like there's another Shank spawn happening right now. I do want to mention now that later on in this fight there are a couple of Overlord champions to deal with. I just want you to be aware of that. I believe they spawn during the next wave of servitors that shield the boss. Alright, so things are looking pretty good. I'm going to try to use my grenade to take out most of these servitors. I don't like to throw them at the servitors because the servitors tend to teleport out of the way. Instead, I throw them at the boss and hope that the area of effect is large enough that it takes out the servitors as well. Obviously, I'm not doing damage to the boss with my grenade, but I can often hit more than one of these servitors at a time. Alright, so we got one of them down. And did some damage to another one. Throw a grenade over there. Again, hit two of them at the same time. So you always have to be aware of enemy spawns. You noticed another wave of shanks spawned here, so I had to stop fighting that servitor to deal with them. Now that I have a grenade up, I'm going to resume fighting these servitors. See if I can get the grenade on this one. Since I kept failing my grenade, I decided to go with Ticus here. It didn't take too long to break the shield. Now that all the servitors are down, I can damage the boss again. I'm going to immediately try to do some decent damage to it with my Tarantula. But we do have another enemy spawn. I'm going to get a grenade out there right away. That was a solid Ticuu shot. And that was a failed grenade. So I'm at one of those points where I just need to focus on clearing the enemies out before I move on. I always like to check down low just in case some enemies end up down there. That grenade wasn't ideal. As you can see, during this wave of enemies, there are some marauders here. There might even be some over in here. And that's what my grenade is for. That worked out pretty well. I'm going to throw one a little bit further over there. Again, that worked out pretty well. The boss came to me so I can do a little bit of damage. I was a bit too close there. Guess I'll throw a grenade on the ball since it's right here. And we have yet another wave of enemies coming in. So this time there's going to be 2 arc-shielded captains as well as a bunch of vandals and some dregs. Alright, so I got the bottom area cleared out. Like I said, I always like to check it just to make sure I'm not getting hit by those enemies. As you can see, one of the arc shielded captains is in that little room to the left there. I almost had it down. Vandals outside keep hitting me with their curving shots. Since I keep getting my grenade back, I might as well keep spamming it in there. I might even take that captain's shield out. There we go. The shield is down. I might finish it off here. Perfect. Now I can go for some of these enemies outside here. If I don't die, of course. Go for the second arc captain here. Perfect. The second arc captain is down. I think I'm almost ready to resume damage on the boss. We'll see if there's any more enemies straggling around out here. Got quite a bit of heavy ammo again. Not quite full, but pretty close. And I'm going to try to damage the boss. Alright, I think we're going to have our next servitor wave. This time I'm going to not fail super. That worked out much better. But like I said, 2 overload champions are going to spawn during this phase, so while I did decent damage to the servitors, I don't want to focus on them anymore right now. I'm going to try to focus on these overload champions. So we do have one out in the open to the right here. Kind of have a vantage point on it right now. I'm going to go ahead and try to peek shoot for now, but unfortunately we did get a wave of shanks. I have to abandon the overload champion for now and focus on these shanks. Now I might be able to go for the champion again. Alright, we almost got one of them down. Now I'm going to focus on some more of these shanks here. Looks like we got a couple of dregs now as well. Check down low quick. I didn't really like how that drag was rushing me, which is why I decided to back away and use my grenade on that instead. Keep in mind there's still one overload champion out there. As you can see, it's actually in this little room to my left here. I don't think this is going to be ideal for taking it out. Nope, because it got pushed off to the left there. So I'm going to go and fight some of these servitors for now. Maybe fighting the servitors will lure it out. I'll just toss some grenades up there at the boss, like last time. I'm always on the lookout for that overload champion. I don't want to get rushed up by it. Alright, I got 2 servitors with that grenade. And we have another shank spawn. I'm going to head back over here to deal with those. There's the overload champion. Well, this spot's not exactly ideal. I can't seem to hit it with my hip fire shot. Not unless I'm right next to the window, but I don't really want to risk that. So I think I'll just do regular shots on this one. Shouldn't take too long, especially if I throw a grenade over there. Alright, there we are. Both overload champions are down now. I'm going to try to fight off some more of these shanks quick before I resume fighting the servitors. Alright, time to go for the servitors. And now I can do boss damage again, and there's plenty of heavy ammo should I need it. Alright, it should be in the very back of the arena here. I do have to be careful for more ads spawning, of which you can see some coming right now. Looks like we're going to have some vandals and dregs again. That grenade did a solid amount of work there. That one a little less so. And now we have another shank spawn to worry about. Alright, now that the area is almost cleared out, I should soon be able to resume boss damage. Just want to make sure some enemies aren't pushing up on me there. If you weren't aware, I did hear the Marauder's invisibility noise going off over there. That's why I decided to throw a grenade in there. And there's one more Marauder. Always have to be careful for those enemies. Throw one more grenade over there for good measure. There we go. And let's try to do some more damage on the boss. I did see a Marauder right in front of me. Since the boss is just sitting there, I'm going to go ahead and shoot it through the window here. And here we have another boss teleport right on me. I'm going to go ahead and use my super here. And there we have it. Sepiks Prime is down. And that was a solo platinum completion of the Grandmaster Devils LAIR Nightfall on a Warlock. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe. I just want to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.